Welcome to Outside the Frame, a podcast for wedding industry professionals to learn how to be better humans in business and life.
We're your hosts,
Kaitlyn of Skywater Photo and Film,
and Kaylyn of Wandering Wildflower Films. We're here to create a supportive and meaningful space for diverse voices to discuss social and personal issues that impact wedding pros.
Our hope is that collectively, we can bring more of ourselves and the things that matter to the forefront of our work in the wedding industry and give all of us the courage to focus our business around who we are and what we care about.
We're so glad you're joining us. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back to Outside the Frame podcast. Today we are joined by Jenn Tai. Jenn is an immigrant, a mom to two fantastic artists in their own right, erstwhile writer and wedding photographer. She spent 12 years in publishing, writing, and then editing in the business and tech space in Malaysia. In 2006, she moved to the States with her family to help further her husband's career and started her studio in 2007. Now, 18 years later, Jenn Tai & Co. is one of Seattle's most established wedding photography and portrait studios in the region. Welcome, Jenn. We're so happy that you're here. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us. This is fantastic.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I immediately thought of you when we were trying to think of different topics and stuff. And I just felt that, between how long you've been in the industry and especially just being such a connector, it seemed like your name came up more than once as I was trying to build my own network after moving to Washington State. So I felt that, it would be a great addition to have you on.
Yeah, the way I and Kaitlyn met is like kind of far flung because it was through the LaPlants. Yeah, it's not even somebody in Seattle. It's they're in Colorado, right?
Jesse and Moira, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember my Colorado, correct? Yeah, because I run another company called World's Best Wedding Photos. So like photographers all around the country and the world, Yeah. So
well, I'd love to jump in,
yeah.
Just hearing about your story of your move from Malaysia to the States and what that experience was like.
I used to be a writer, a journalist. I was covering the business and tech space, started in trade in like the hospitality, retail space, and then kind of moved into technology in those spaces, and then started writing for my national paper, The Star, the technology, pull out the insert, and then started writing for CNET Asia, and then started doing like video games, got really into the whole video game space, and then started editing a magazine in that space. That's how I met my husband. He's in tech. And then he got a job at Microsoft in 2006. Was like, hey, how would you like to move halfway across the world? I was like, okay. Didn't really think about it. I was telling Kaitlyn, I was like, we just had our second baby at that time. And when we were contemplating, I was pregnant. My head was not in like thinking about anything else. It was like his career. And when I think back, I'm like, oh my God, like what the heck was I thinking? Just saying okay to everything. But that's what happened. Moved here and then gave up my career basically. I mean, that's what happens. Like something has to give when you have kids, and but he was like very thoughtful about my career, and he was like, why don't you think about something to do? And then I was like, I don't know anybody here. What can I do? It's so crazy. I've never been to the States other than one time honeymooning, and don't know anybody here. And he was like, how about photography? You've done it, in your job, you like it, you've always wanted to do it. I was like, as a hobby, yeah, but yeah, then he actually got me a camera without telling me and then kept it for a while so I couldn't return it for full price. And we had no money. And I was like, this is a 5D Mark II, 2470. At that time, what, $7,000? I don't even know how much it was. And it was very alarming, very sudden, but he knows I'm a person that works really well under pressure and through that hat over the fence before I could do anything about it. And I went to work. I was like, the good thing about moving with kids is like it's easier to make friends compared to if you were single, married with no kids. We enrolled them in a preschool, got to know some moms, and like, hey, I'm starting this business. Can I, use some of you as portfolio and models? And yeah, started from there. And then one of the sisters of one of the moms was like, hey, getting married, would you like to shoot my wedding? I was like, sure. I actually shot one wedding back in Malaysia when I was still a writer, just for a friend. It was like, no, not really my deal. Way back when, little did I know.
So
Here
then what
you are.
changed your mind this time? Just that it was, that
It was
additional
a
pressure or?
similar, yeah, because I really, really loved my job, as a journalist, as a writer, and didn't really want to give that up. Wedding photography in Malaysia is a very different thing. It involves a lot of portraiture, a lot of posing. It's like 12, 15-hour days, did not sound like something that I wanted to do with two little kids. And it's also 100 degrees there all the time. I was like, this is miserable. I don't know why anybody would want to do this. Having done it for a friend, I didn't know like the business aspect of it. It wasn't really even seriously considering. It was just for fun. And then, yeah, when I came here and then did that one wedding, which I charged $800, I was like, what would you like to pay? $800. Okay. You can tell that that's a pattern to my personality. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. By that time, I wasn't writing anymore, right? I had no career what to speak of. I really missed it. I really missed the energy of covering a story, of documenting a day, and just the energy was the same. It was very different from photographing families and kids. All day was a story. So very similar to my life as a writer, covering events and doing profiles and stuff like that. And so I was like, yeah, maybe this is my thing. And then, yeah, that kind of started ball rolling, and that's how it started. It's crazy
Crazy. And 18 years.
saying yes to everything. As you can see, I'm not really an overthinker. If anything, an underthinker.
What's been one of the trickiest parts of being a mother as well as like an entrepreneur? Because obviously you're like, yeah, I'll try it. Let's go for it. You're a yes person.
I have to say all the things that were working for me to make this happen, right? So I had my in-laws here 6 months out of the year. So they were a big help in like babysitting. So that's the biggest thing, right? Like I know that is very rare, not something a lot of photographers' little kids have.
Mhm.
Babysitting, childcare is a huge issue, right? A huge thing that I didn't have to really deal with. When they went back to Malaysia, they would time it where it was winter. My season's over, and then, I don't need that much help. Although I was still doing a lot of family photos and stuff like that. I had, like, I would say half weddings, half families at that time. Now I'm like 90% weddings and 10% families. So that was a big portion of it. Having said that, only I think 5 or 6 years into it, I realized how much summertime I would have been given up because I did, learning. It's like a lot of learning when I came here as an immigrant, like weddings is a seasonal thing. It is a little seasonal back in Malaysia, but it's 100 degrees all year round, except for monsoon season in February. And I don't remember what the other time is where weddings are fewer. Lots of people get married towards the end of the year, which is our winter. Not very many people get married like April around that time, too hot. So the seasonality of our wedding, our industry here in the Pacific Northwest means that we have to give up a lot of our summer weekends. That came and I was like, wow, the kids are home and we don't get to do very many summery things. A few years into that, I actually wrote an just out of regret, I wrote this article called 10 Summers because I realized that when the kids hit middle school, I thought I had 18 years with my kids, but you don't. You only have 10 good summers, 10 good years because when they're little babies, there's really not much you can do except take care of them. And then when they start growing up, you get to spend time going camping, doing summery things, going vacations with them. Then they become middle age and then they start like not wanting to spend that much time with you. So really you don't have that buy-in anymore from them. You can't force, I mean, you can. I have forced them many times to go and I still force them. They have no say when we decide to go on a family vacation. We just want to make sure that everybody's free, but that willing participation, you only get 10 summers. And then when we reduce it down to summer months, like 3 months and 4 weekends each, just 12 weekends, and then we book 10 of them for weddings. We have 2 weekends left. So you have 2 summer weekends left per summer to go do all these things with you. I get very emotional when I think I still do, because it's gone. I can't ever get them back. Ooh. But I was telling Kaitlyn, they're grown now, they're 23 and 20, right? I want to do an interview with them. If they actually remember, that they missed all these weekends, mom was not here, that they sat at home so much doing nothing, you know? I feel guilty, right? Sorry, this is not therapy.
Okay.
What am I doing?
This is what we're here for, literally. This is what we want.
This is the whole point.
I don't think they remember, right? But I'm very curious as to see if it impacted them in any way that there was a lot of time where they were just at home doing it was summer school, or yeah, they did a lot of Girl Scouts camps, day camps, and spending time with grandma and grandpa. What one thing that I think this is a very American thing. Like when you go back to school, the teachers always ask what you did over summer. I was always very ashamed, because I don't know if they have any stories, right? Of course they do. There are things that they remember, like, and kids remember the oddest, most, to me, insignificant things, right? Like, oh my God, this one time we caught this bug. It's like totally not something that I would remember, but they would. And of course they would have stories, and the teachers would make them write essays and go up to the class and say what we did over summer and your memories and stuff like that. I would be so like stressed because I was like, they have nothing. I don't know if they remember that we went. Yeah, we did go one camp, one trip, two trips. And then it became this whole thing of, oh my God, I need to stuff all the weekends I did not book anything, right? I stuffed it full of like memories, hoping that those are the things that they would remember, right? And my kids are not camping kids. They hate camping. Okay. They hate the outdoors. So it was probably miserable for them. They remember how miserable it was having to go on all these hikes and staying in this uncomfortable surroundings, But
I feel like you're still able to build some of those memories now. I
yeah,
mean, if they're in
yes.
the home and obviously, spending more time with them.
They're grown-ups. Yeah, the both of them are living at home. Our older daughter graduated college, came back, right? And we just went to San Francisco, So I mean, they're older now. Memories are very different. It's all just surrounding food and eating here and eating there. And they do like going to like the zoo and aquarium and things like that. But in their minds, I think it's like we're doing it for mom and dad, mostly mom, you know. They go for trips with their friends now. They have more fun. I mean, my husband and I are sad about that, but it is what it is. So, long story short, answer to your question, when you have little kids, charge more so that you can work less to preserve especially if you have seasonal work, because I can tell you that that was my biggest regret. Not knowing, like me, I'm saying yes to everything, that I shouldn't have said yes to everything.
It's really hard, I think, to kind of recognize all the things that we do miss out on, like with our work, and even when emergencies come up, right, or family emergencies come up,
Oh yeah.
how hard that can be for our people in our industry to just, yeah, deal with that and have to communicate with clients and be like, hey, I'm sorry, an emergency came up. I need to find a backup for you or whatever. And have you ever had, any moments like that where you had to, I don't know,
Oh
adjust
my
your schedule
God.
over the
Knock
years? I
on
mean,
wood. I have
okay.
never had,
Mm,
even through COVID. That's insane.
that's impressive.
I mean, not even like having a cold or anything. Because, we all feel bad when something like that happens. So bad, right? You don't even know how to word an email to tell your clients, that you've gotten sick, that you're human, that these things happen. I guess that's why we work hard on finding good people. I've been really lucky. Maybe that's a testament to the kind of clients I've attracted, where nothing bad has happened. If something bad did happen, that it went smoothly, that I don't even remember. I don't think anything like that has ever happened. But it's true. It's a big stressor in what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like at least you've seemed to do a great job over the last 18 years of connecting with people here in Washington State, obviously through
Mhm.
World's Best of, photographers all over the place, that hopefully you have some sort of like reassurance that gives you confidence that like if something did come up, you have the network in place, right? To
Mhm.
to handle things.
Yeah. I mean, the most recent one was it was not a wedding or anything. It was this thing that my friend had invited me to as a guest, thinking that I would bring my camera.
Oh, that's right. You posted about
Right.
that recently.
Just heads up to all my friends watching this. If you tell me jokingly to bring my camera, I never bring my camera because you invited me as a guest. I'm not working. The last thing I want to do is work, right? And I know most of the time when my friends jokingly ask me, they do not expect me to work. But this time she was like, I don't have a photographer. So what I did was I texted, I put it on Nuptial. I was like, oh my God, can you bring me a camera? So my friend Stephanie Cristalli, bless her, she was just 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away, really close. And she was like, okay, I'm on it. She brought me her Canon. I shoot Sony. She was like, you want me to show you? I was like, I'll figure it out, because I was like just so mortified. Yeah, it was her retirement party and I felt so bad. Anyway, so she brought me her 2470 and her new mirrorless Canon, which I fell in love with. After I shot the thing, I was like, I'm buying a Canon, you guys. Switching back to Canon. I was Canon and Nikon and Sony, and now I want to go back to Canon.
You hear that, Kaylyn? She's Sony and I'm on Canon, so
I will not do that. I can tell you that I do miss the Canon colors, especially my old 51.2 was just such a beautiful lens. But yeah, I was like, wow, this thing is fun to play with. Anyway, she did that. So she saved the day. I wouldn't say I saved the day. She did. She's such a good friend. That's lesson number two from this podcast. Make sure you have a good network of work wives, you know.
oh, for sure, for sure. It can save the day when you need it, right? Even
Yeah,
if it's a camera you don't know how to
anywhere.
use. Yeah.
Yeah, have them peppered all over the country just in case something like this happens.
How do you create a community like that? What are some things that you've done that really have created those work wives?
Longevity, guys. When you've been long enough in the industry, 20 years, you're bound to make some friends. So I love learning, right? And I think in the start of my career, I did foundation workshops. I did the Jonathan Canlis workshops. I did mountain workshops. I love learning, even though, it's my background, but this is a different country. Americans do things differently. I don't know what's going on, what when I started photography, I did not know what senior portraits were. I legit thought it was like photos of old people. I was like, wow, you guys are I like everybody says that Americans don't really take care of their elders. That's not true. There's a whole industry of senior portraits. I was like, we don't even have that, back in Malaysia. What are we talking about? And then I was like, these are not seniors. These are opposite of seniors, these are young people. And then my friend was like, high school seniors. I said, why do you call them seniors? He's like, oh, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I was like, y'all are just very strange, you know senior portraits. Anyway, so I went to a lot of all these things, and especially foundation conference and foundation workshop attracted photographers from all over the country and all over the world, and they all came to the same place, for the conference, for the workshops, and through that I actually created my like kind of worldwide photography friends. You'll know quite a few of them. Of course, some of them have gone to do other things, and then shooting weddings and doing other conference, WPPI, things like that. Again, you meet a lot of different photographers from different countries and places, and that's how you kind of create your network. I love meeting people. Again, it's part of my journalism background where getting to know people is part of the deal.
Aside from conferences, you've also seemed to do like a great job at doing things locally here in Washington State. How did that kind of build? Was that just something that
Oh,
built naturally over time, or was that,
over
what kind
time.
of kickstarted a lot of that?
Yeah, I think again, when you've done something long enough, you're bound to meet people and work with people, right? And then with the photography group, other than the conferences and when social media started, especially Facebook groups, right? That kind of like took it to the next level because there was this one place that we could all meet online and network without going out. And that's how we started Nuptial Society. And that kind of grew. That was started by a couple of dudes, mainly Gabe Rodriguez. He doesn't even shoot weddings anymore. Started with like 40 people and now it's like 500 people. Networking with the planners and other industry folks, right? Just shooting enough weddings, meeting enough people. When I started, a lot of weddings did not have planners because you start at a certain bracket. So those weddings tend not to have planners. And as you kind of move up a little bit, once in a while, you get a huge wedding and those have planners. And then you meet one, you meet another. I really credit my connection with planners to this one planner, Lisa Chambers. She doesn't do weddings anymore. She works for Nintendo now doing corporate events. She was the one who really connected me with the planner community as you go up that ladder, and then you work with more and more vendors because the bigger weddings have more vendors. And then you get published. People see you and then they connect with you and then it just kind of rolls in that direction. That's usually how it happens. Also joining things like WIPA and we used to have this thing called Weddings Network, ILEA, NACE, and all these industry associations. That's another great way to quickly meet people. I know a lot of people are not really into paying the fees and stuff like that, but you know what? Yeah, these things take money to run, right? If you don't pay into these things, you are taking from these things, right? People run them, people put them together. It's time and effort and talent, you know? So I'm more than happy to pay into things like that. Even if you don't advertise, just joining something is good. It's not that much, a few $100 a year.
No, I think that's great. I think it's
Yeah.
been super cool to see every time I've ever attended like a WIP
Yeah.
event or something, and you're there and it's like everybody in the room knows you. You know, it's so cool to see that
Kaitlyn, give it
yeah.
another 5 years. You've been doing this like 10 years, right?
Well, technically I'm somewhere around like year 12 or year 13, but
Yeah.
full time for I think going on 8 now. So
It
yeah,
got
it's
reset
getting
when you moved. So it reset a
yeah,
little bit,
a
right?
little.
But I've been here, the same place for 18 years,
Mhm.
you know. So that is why. And I know people want to know the secret, if there's a shortcut. No, there's no shortcut. It was just a number of years, you know. There is no special talent or special power, superpower. There's nothing. It's just I've been here a long time.
A lot of that they'll also do though, like I think you should give yourself a little bit more credit to just being open and friendly and welcoming to people.
Yeah.
I don't know that longevity alone should give you that kind of credit because like I think you do just have this sense of, you know, letting other people in and being willing to connect
Yeah.
and stuff. And so I didn't know if there were other things that you did with, say, you know, even when like a planner was connecting you to other planners, did you take the initiative to reach out and say, hey, I would love to meet up for coffee, go to lunch? Like, you know, or was it all these just like local networking events, like where multiple people were there?
So I tell this to everybody as well. So no, I didn't like, I always felt like, okay, I don't want to be like too eager, right? You have that like, okay, you know, Jack has introduced you to Jill. You don't want to suddenly even back in the day without social media, cold email somebody and say, hey, let's go for coffee. I never did that, you know. However, whenever they asked me or thought to ask, or they asked somebody if they knew a photographer who would do a style shoot for free, again, me saying yes. I said yes to a lot of stuff. Even at this point, I still say yes at 18 years to somebody who I know that, you know, they're like, okay, we want Jenn to photograph this because there's a high chance that we will get published, you know. I will help you if I can, you know, and I will tell them, look, it's not just me, right? I have no superpower. The trick to getting published in these magazines is that they want lots and lots of vendors, right? If you have a wedding with 20 vendors, you know, the likelihood of it getting published is pretty high because the magazine wants advertisers. I was in publishing. I know the game. So that's one thing. It's not really, oh my gosh, you're so talented, you know. I'm sorry, but it's really a photo of a flower is a photo of a flower, a
Yeah.
bouquet. Other than the editing, it really, if you are gonna sell your services, you must be pretty good. It's the person that made the bouquet that's the talent. I'm sorry, but that's what I, I think, you know. I don't have a superpower. The superpower is the florist and the number of vendors.
I think like, yeah, it gets hard because I think so many of us get sucked into just pushing out galleries to couples and not always remembering to share
Yes.
photos and
Yeah.
galleries with other vendors. I think that that can be a huge step forward. And even,
Yes.
one of the most random bookings I ever got was actually a tip from another photographer who said, in your off season, go through and look at all the venues you've been at. And there was a venue that you went to for the first time and you have great photos to show for it, leave
Yeah.
them a Google review with
That's right.
photos.
Yes.
I had a couple find me that way.
Yep.
And, so I think it's just like add it to your off season of things to do, of, making sure that, like, if you didn't already have it in your to-do list
Yes.
throughout the year, are you sharing images with other vendors? Because I feel
Yes.
like that could be a huge thing. Yeah, and submitting to publications, right? I think that
Yeah,
can
I put
go
on my
a long
Friday,
way.
every Friday, write a Google review. I'm running out of people to write Google because you don't want to have, you can't write, I don't know if you can, I've never tried it, write a second review. I've never done that, but yeah, do that, submit photos, because sometimes they are too busy to do it. And it's really nice when you do it, it's a nice surprise and that sticks in their mind that you actually took time out. That's what I think. If somebody left me a review, they took time out. It's time that they will never get back to do something nice for you.
Absolutely. What are some things that our industry in general could do to foster that community more?
Abundance mindset, guys. Okay. No scarcity mindset. I know that it doesn't make logical sense when you think about it. There is enough business for everybody. Thinking that you have to like hoard business or that scarcity, that things are gonna run out, that this person is in competition with me, this person is taking from me, that mindset is very limiting. That all comes from insecurity, right? We are all insecure. We are artists. It's in our DNA, that whole imposter syndrome. We're not good enough. We're never good enough. Person is better than me, or I'm so much better than this person. Why am I not as successful? Things like that, right? Once you hit 10 years, and I don't know, Kaylyn, how long have you been doing this?
So I've had my own company for 2 years, but I've been in the industry for like 6 or 7 years.
Okay. I think anything after 5 years, I think at 5 years, you kind of like, wow, I'm still around. Holy shit, maybe I can do this. At 10 years, you're like kind of becoming a little sagey, you're like, you don't even shoot with your primes anymore. Like you're at your 24/70, you're like, my back is killing me. I don't need to be holding two cameras. What am I trying to prove? At this point, at 18 years, I'm like, I have no more F's to give, and I have nothing to prove to nobody. Nobody's even looking at you. I think just not being so afraid of competition and sharing information with the new generation of photographers. I think they get it right away. I don't know. I've not met a lot of new photographers who are being like the way it was when I first started out, where everybody was just keeping everything to themselves. I see a lot of new photographers in the Seattle area really doing the whole sharing, networking, community thing. They get it. Sharing is caring. They're not taking anything from you. You're not giving anything away that you can't find on YouTube anymore.
So then after 18 years, are you saying that imposter syndrome never comes up anymore?
No. What, are you kidding me?
I'm like, is there hope? Is there hope for me to
It will
like,
never. I'm sorry. You will always feel like that. Always. You just don't like it comes to you and you kind of laugh it off at this point. Because
yeah.
you're like, if everybody's an imposter, then nobody's an imposter. When you're starting out, you think that you're the only one who feels like that. At 18 years, you're like, everybody feels like this.
Mhm.
It's okay. It's all right. Give yourself a break. That person thinks he's a fool. I think I'm a fool. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's okay.
Yeah, I think we can all recognize that, like, we're all kind of feeling the same way, but I don't know, for me, I struggle with this constant sense of feeling confident in my abilities
Yeah.
to do the job and do the job well, but also constantly pushing the bar. And I think that that also gets hard. And so, after a couple decades, I mean, how do you balance that of like, oh no, like there are still some things, do you still try to push things creatively? Do you feel like you're kind of
Yeah,
like,
for my own fun, not
yeah.
really for I mean, of course you want to do a good job for your clients, but the pushing the bar is no longer about taking that award-winning photo. It's taking the photo makes me happy. It might not even be related to the wedding that I'm shooting, and I will throw that in. They probably will look at it and be like, what the heck is this thing? But um but it makes me happy. And I think Ben Hage posted this on Threads a few days ago, which is something that I believe in. People who are not photographers don't care about how good the photo is. They only care about how good they look. If you realize this sooner, you will care less about why clients pick certain photos to print or enlarge, and you'd be like, that makes no sense why they paid $500 for this one photo. It's not even a great photo, but they look really beautiful. Maybe they picked it because it was a really flattering photo. They made them look good in their eyes. That is a truth. I think there are two truths. That's number one. Nobody cares how good a photo is in terms of technically how good a photo is. In our eyes as photographers, they only care about how good they look. So that's the first truth from Bench H. I will credit him. But Bench, I've been thinking the same thought for years. Okay, you just said it out loud first.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
think maybe
documenting
that
the
and then emotion. Oh, sorry,
yeah, that's
Caitlin.
what I was gonna say, Kaitlyn, is exactly like it was the emotion. Like if you like are crying in that moment or whatever and you are laughing or whatever, I feel like that's more important than perfectly composed
Yeah,
shot.
but there's okay, so this is a true story. So I took this photo that I show all the time, beautiful photo of a mom and a sister comforting my bride as she was getting ready. When she put on her dress, she got really emotional. And so she started ugly crying. I got a series of what I thought were like award-winning photos, and they did win me an award. But she hates those photos because
It
she
was
Oh.
like an ugly
looks,
cry. Yeah.
it's an ugly cry. She said, I am finally okay with you showing that photo because my sister talked me down. And it is a good photo, but I really don't like the way I look in those photos. It's real. It was very real photos, and all the award-winning photos of, Pulitzer, all the awards the journalists win. I don't think the people in those photos would like those photos because they are going through something, right? And it makes sense. It's a wedding. They want to look beautiful, right? And then those photos, yes, they will enjoy in private and they probably do treasure them, but in private. I rarely show that photo anymore after she shared that with me. And she's like, oh, I'm completely fine with you showing it. And I agree it's a great photo, but yeah, I really wish I didn't look like that. Like, it's not about us. I think that's the other truth, that we need to realize that wedding photography is the one type of photography where it's mostly, I would say 99% not about us, right? It's about our clients. You cannot make it about us.
Yeah,
Cannot.
that reminds me of the Two Man You
Mm,
course. They talk about this a lot. Erica and Lanny Man talk
mhm,
about because like they had that set of years where they just kept going after the awards, right? And it was all eye
mhm.
candy. And it
Yeah.
was all like, how can we make this even more epic than the
Yeah.
last
The
epic
epic.
photo? And they just kept talking about this idea that, yeah, like but there was no heart or there was no movement or that
Mm,
extra little piece, right? And so yeah, I do think we have to bring it back to what matters most. Like I feel like the images that the clients are going to cherish for years to come may have nothing to do with what's
mhm.
uh award winning.
Winning. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
the images that they're going to put in their photo album, right, and keep for a long time
Yep.
are not going to be the most glamorous type images, but yeah, ones that speak to them more, that mean quite a bit more.
Here's the other thing. When you deliver that gallery, go back and look at the photos that your clients fave and ask yourself, what the heck? I can tell you that all of them are just photos of them looking good, of people they care about. Or if you're looking at the parents' albums or whoever they send the gallery to, right? Yeah, look at all the photos that they're faved. That is a very humbling exercise. I feel. I don't know about you. When I look at that and I'm like, oh my God, I sent them 1,000 photos. They only like 300.
Yeah, I wonder if that could be a great experience, especially for anybody that's maybe struggling to deliver less,
Yeah.
right?
You still want to deliver like all the key stuff and all the
Hmm.
important stuff, and all the stuff that you think is worthy to be delivered. Like I'm very tight with my call, you
Yeah.
know. One thing I learned in foundation through Wee Nguyen, who was the owner of foundation workshops, was that when I was going through it, he was like, yes, you compose and you wait for the moment it happens, right? And you try and anticipate a better moment. But if that scene, whatever is happening, you anticipate is happening has happened, you've taken the photo, you need to move on, especially at a wedding, right? We don't have all day to be like waiting there, like we're waiting for a moose to walk into the frame, we can't, right? Things are happening. But still, yeah, when you deliver that 1,000 photos out of a 10-hour wedding. There's 100 photos per hour. They like 300 photos. They're happy, they love the photos, but the ones they really love, it's only like 300 photos.
Do you have any advice that you've been given over the years that you actually use and actually follow? Aside from, like, you mentioned the photography of doing stuff in the off season, but anything else?
I know it also sounds like tropey and duh, like being kind to everybody and not just think of it transactionally because you're afraid that it might come back to bite you. But yeah, just being aware that, in our business, remembering the human behind the service is really, really important. During weddings, I like to take photos of the florists installing and the staff, the staff, right? Wait staff, the cooks, if they're in a tent doing the caterers, stuff like that. I mean, I don't take very many, but when I do have some downtime, I do take some photos of the setup. Just a little reminder, right? That there are people making your dreams come true. I think that's the most important. I think that gets lost a lot. Being thankful, being grateful that we get to do this. As hard as it is sometimes on a 90-degree day that you're like suffering out there.
I know you said your daughters are creatives or artists in their own
Yes.
right. Have they ever shown any interest in like the work that do they ever ask about it? Or is it like they just like have this creative sense and it's something totally different?
Totally different, completely not related to photography. Do not want to touch it with a 10-foot stick. That's the problem with, I don't know. I see a lot of like photography friends having kids who are interested in their work. They must have been very nurturing and like kind of encouraging. I must not have done that because neither of them are interested in like me giving them the business or teaching them anything. Raven is into drawing art, our older child, and Skylar's into animations.
Mm.
So, very different. Yeah. And both of them are very they're gamers, so it's very game centric, very techy, more like their dad.
I have one last question, if Kaylin has anything else. You've mentioned a lot about saying yes to a lot of opportunities, and I think that that's great. Are there any things that you've learned over the years that you've either needed to start saying no to or, practicing certain boundaries in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like because if you're gonna have a family, right? And if you have 20 weekends that you want to book out, and you should really set a top number, like I want to make $200,000 this year. I'm going to book, these are my 20 dates that I'm going to sell for $200,000. If you hit that $200,000 and you have sold the 20 slots, right, wherever the chips may fall, whatever is left, block it off, right? Or better still, block off the dates that you want to do one weekend each month that during the summer, and never block those, and try and make it up with other dates and kinds of photography to make that number. Set that number and set your own boundaries and limits. Now, if I'm booked for something or it falls on a date that blocked for vacation, I will send it off to my associates. And if nobody bites for them, then I send it out. The hard part is when you're like almost there, right? You're like $10,000 short and it falls on that date that you've already booked or you've already blocked. You're like, fuck. It's really hard to say, no, I'm booked, and you put it out. Done it a couple of times. Feel great that that's an inquiry, and I'm happy somebody else is taking it. I'm the one who's putting out the referral, or if Kelly and Brandon get booked for it. But yeah, learn how to set those boundaries. I promise you that money is not worth it. At that point, you don't even know if it's a good booking. You may hate the clients. You may not even get it.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna like unblock this, and then if I book it, I'm going to cancel it. And then they're like stringing you along for weeks and weeks and weeks. And you're like, should I? Should I? And then, you're like, okay, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell my family, we're not going to Hawaii anymore, blah, 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 blah. And then you don't get it. Our business is crazy. The thing that the roller coaster that we put ourselves through, running your own business is not easy. Learn to set up a system where you're like, okay, I only have you have a number to meet and you meet those numbers and you call it good. That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Does it get easier to do that?
No, it's
After getting to the point of like, only in the sense of, does it get easier if you feel really good about all the ones you've already booked?
yes.
Like, if you really feel like you've honed in on who your ideal clients are and you're
Yeah.
loving
Yeah.
90% or more of the work that you do,
Yes.
then it doesn't feel so bad when another good inquiry
Yeah.
comes through and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, but it's okay because I
Yeah.
feel good about what I have.
Yes. Yeah, it gets easier when you have a framework. Gets
Yeah.
easier when you're also longer in the industry, I think. I remember being really young and hungry. I'm still hungry, different for different things.
How long do you think you'll stay in the industry? Like, do you have any ideas as far as
Um,
like, do you feel like you're going to be doing photo for a really long time?
you will always be a photographer, right? It's just a matter of how much you want to work. Well, this is another topic that you guys can probably talk to somebody else about, like the physicality of our work, how physical it is, how in shape you have to be. I don't want to break my body down to a point where I can't live my life anymore. And that's this job. This job does that to you if you don't really take care of yourself well and be intentional about it. It's not a podcast, but I do this series of interviews called exit interviews, right? And that pattern that has emerged is that there's always this one wedding that you do that lets you know that that's it. That's a pattern that I've seen in the people that I've interviewed where they do this one wedding and are like, I think that this is it. This is it. Because you just cannot take it anymore.
Mm.
You know?
Like physically, mentally, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, you hit that wall where it's just the client or mother of the client or, some planner or some videographer or somebody who's gonna,
Yeah.
or the venue, the layout of the venue or the wedding itself, it's just like everything is just not going the way that you want it to go. And everything that could go wrong went wrong. Maybe it's the universe telling you, that's it, you're done. I hope that never happens to me. I want to walk gracefully into the sunset, Bye. Well, thank you for having me, guys. This was fun. I've never done a podcast. I mean, I've been invited, but I've always said no because I feel like it's really hard to talk about photography in a limited time. I could talk about it all day forever.
Well, I feel so honored that you said yes.
Because you know why? Because we are talking about something different. Like we're talking about things that matter, the lives behind what we do.
Thank you for, opening up and being so honest and talking about, yeah,
Difficult,
moving here and motherhood and all the things. It's wonderful. It's exactly what we're looking for.
Thank you everyone for being here. What an incredible conversation to have with Jenn and such a deep understanding of what it's like to be in this industry for such a long period of time and to have that growth and change in your life. So what an honor to have her and for her to choose to say yes to our podcast. It really is a true honor. It was so much fun to talk to her, and we will include all of her information down in the show notes. If you have any questions, comments, please put those below. Please share, download, all the things to our podcast, spread the word. Also, if you have anyone that you think we should speak to or any topics that you really want to hear, please, please, please go to our website, which we'll link below, to really just give us some information, put our inquiry form in, let us know what you want to hear, who you want to hear from. Thank you for being here, and we will talk to you again soon.